Welcome, everybody, and welcome also to the party people in the back who are not yet sitting. Please take a seat. It is my great honor to moderate this event tonight, and my name is Amma van Danzig. It's written big and bold, and that's what I like because I don't always feel big and bold. But this is encouragement to do big and bold things. We have a wonderful program for you today. We want it to be quick, we want it to be interactive. We want you to know, lest we forget, as the world is changing, as civic space is shrinking, we want to share success stories with you so that you don't forget that we did work at something and we did have an impact. And perhaps it will inspire more for the future. We have been invited here by ActionAid, which is one of my favorite civil society organizations because of its feminist and right-based framework from which the organization operates. And that's always inspiring to me. And this evening is part of the 15 years of Fair, Green and Global, of the Fair, Green and Global program that has been sponsored by the Power of Voices program at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in the Netherlands. And if you're following anything, you know, that's not necessarily looking hopeful in terms of support or continuation, but we shall not give up. That's what this evening is about. It's about showcasing what we've done. It's about celebrating how far we've come, and it's also about charting new paths, finding inspiration and figuring out what next. So we're going to do that with a combination of experts and practitioners who are experts. They're going to share their stories with you. The program is in Kenya. The Kenyans, let's hear some noise from the Kenyans. Yeah! No, Kenya, please. You are party people. Do better. You are not hungry. I know you've been fed. Kenya! Uganda? Yeah! Bangladesh? Yay! Guatemala? Yeah! I knew I could count on you. Zimbabwe? Yeah! So we brought many of the countries in the house. I hope, or maybe I'll ask you a question. Who is here looking for hope? Yeah, almost everybody. Let's not pretend that the world is not going to SHIT outside these walls. Who is here looking for inspiration? Almost everyone. Okay, I'll leave the questions there so that, but basically I'm going to try and make it as interactive as possible so that we can, there will be opportunities to ask questions. And because I really would like us to have this opportunity to be inspired, but also to chart new paths forward and to connect with each other. And so on. So, to start, we have a keynote from none other than Janne Nijman, who is a professor in history and theory of international law at the Faculty of Law at the University of Amsterdam. And Janne is also the chair of the Human Rights Committee of the Advisory Council on International Affairs. Quite a mouthful, but that's what important people do. They like to fill your mouth with big words. And that advises the Dutch government and parliament on foreign policy. And she's the chair of the drafting committee of the report Shrinking Civic Space, Freedom and Safety, which came out in 2025. Very important report that I hope you will all look up and read. Please do your very best. The last bits of hope and inspiration. Give her a warm round of applause as she takes the stage and tells us something about the state of the world as the expert that she is.
Thank you so much, Amma. And I'm sorry about all of this blah blah. So the history and theory of international law means that I talk a lot in class with students about colonization and international law and decolonizing international law and human rights. And the function that I have the honor of that I have in the context of the Advisory Council is one on which, this is better, we talk about human rights and international law in the context of foreign policy and Dutch foreign policy. Now, thank you so much to the organizers, to Sophie, to Amma, to ActionAid. And what I really appreciate, Amma, about your introduction is that we celebrate success stories and we celebrate courage, I would say. Courage is really a notion that I found very, very tangible during our interviews with a lot of colleagues of you, of us, as human rights defenders, as climate activists, as journalists and university people. All are under pressure, and that's what we talk about when we talk about shrinking civic space. So we celebrate success stories, we celebrate courage, and it isn't easy to do the work that you are doing. And so I want to map a little bit the problem that we're talking about, just briefly, because when we know what we're talking about, we can think a bit better about how to move forward, also when funding diminishes. So autocracy is on the rise, democracy is under severe pressure, and shrinking civic space is a symptom of that. And a closed and unsafe civic space is detrimental to social and economic justice issues, the issues that Action Aid and you all work on. So for the first time in decades, there are more autocracies than democracies. And I am going to mention a few numbers, and I know they're numbers, but as I said in the introduction, this is about people. It's about the journalists that you saw just on my back. It's about human rights defenders in 117 countries, fundamental rights and freedoms such as freedom of expression, freedom of association, and the right to protest have been severely restricted. 117 countries. In 2024, 60 countries became less free, and the year before that, that were another couple of 56, I think, also in Europe, but especially around the world. The year 2024 was the deadliest year for journalists and also for humanitarian aid workers. So the situation is really dire. I love this picture. It's about the courage that we were talking about. The situation is dire, and the shrinking civic space is about killings of people who fight for what they believe in. It's about people who get tear gas when they protest. It's about prosecutions. It's about killings, and it's about slaps, lawsuits that drain people, their funding, their energy. So the situation is really, really serious. And it's not just something that's happening in particular pockets of places in the world. We know all that, you know all that, it's happening globally. And so even though shrinking space is never the same everywhere or anywhere, we have to acknowledge that there are broader trends that do explain this general global trend. And that's the rise of populism. I mentioned autocracy, so the rise of populism where governments play with fear and hate, undermining of democratic institutions and the rule of law, repressive legislation in name of security and in the name of fighting terrorism, a lot of copycatting of that foreign agent legislation that Russia started with, a lot of toxic behavior in digital space, corruption, economic and corporate interests that trump respect for rights and freedoms. And so in today's globalized world, the free and safe civic space that we all need as citizens and organizations is really, in a way, not just shrinking, also the transnational space is shrinking. And I would say that a lot of where the energy and the power is in social movements is in social movements that operate transnationally, right? That's where the energy is with the climate movement, the women's movement, the Black Lives Matter movement. People power is borderless. People power is transnational, but so are the threats. Now, I can go on, I won't do that with the analysis. We want to move on to what we need to do. But this is just to give you a bit of the background that made us very, very concerned as a council, and we came with an advice that emphasized the urgency, an advice to the government and also Parliament. Because civic space, to link again up with the topic of tonight, is important when we fight for social and economic justice issues. And we see, I've admired already the stories of the speakers who come later onto the podium. It's really amazing what they have been doing. And so that's something to celebrate, but it's also something to reflect on. How can we all support each other? And that is, among others, by building alliances and building networks. Now, part of that requires really democracy that is under pressure. And democracy is not just organizing elections, it's really about making sure we as people or as institutions speak up. So human rights are crucial. If you talk about governmental foreign policy, a defense of human rights is very, very crucial. It's a defense of particular rights, civil, political rights, but also social and economic rights, right? We were talking a little bit about this over dinner, right? The question is, if you want to participate in civic space and you want to advocate for good causes, and not everyone has the same position and capacity to start with, right? In racialized societies, in societies with gender discrimination, there isn't always the same starting point. So that's about structural inequalities that are also there. Public space, civic space, is about encouraging each other, participating in political life, and it's about solidarity and making solidarity actionable. So finally, making it concrete with respect to what we thought is important for the Dutch government is making sure that we have the diagnosis on the table, the structural inequalities, the political developments, the global trends. And one of our first messages has been that please, as a government, we advised, take this as a political concern of monumental scale. And why am I emphasizing this? If you look at Dutch foreign policy, it may easily be something, shrinking civic space, as CSOs, something of international cooperation, it's a bit marginal, than a core issue of foreign policy. And we're saying we need a government that stands for civic space, for human rights, and sees it as, understands it as a geopolitical interest of all of us. Dutch society, but global society. I mean, the world, this planet, is one planet. So that has been one of the main messages. Get it out of the funding scheme discussion only. I come to that, of course, but make it really something that you put political weight behind. Another important principle that we underlined in this advice is please accept the no harm principle as a core principle of foreign policy. And that means that the Dutch government, in its programs and plans and actions, should not harm when it implements these programs, but also realize that Dutch companies, we talked about mining, we talked about other issues over dinner, make sure that Dutch companies are not harming local interest, ecology, human rights, and civic space. I mentioned the fact that there are global trends. I didn't go into detail, but I said there is particular types of repressive legislation, populism, always the problem of economic and corporate interest trumping the interest of people. We emphasize that there is a role for the local embassies and missions, because the Dutch government, and I hope, I'm curious to hear from you in the Q&A, how it has worked for you. But a lot of these issues require a context-sensitive, a local approach. And that's where hopefully the finances can be fruitful. So be context-sensitive, have sufficient funding at local embassies to make sure that very context-specific actions can be supported, and be specific also in terms of political societies. When there's a weak democracy that wants to develop its formal organizations, that perhaps requires different support and collaboration than in very autocratic systems. So all in all, 3 basic giveaways, takeaways, also giveaways. be consistent and develop a long-term vision. For the consistency, also there is, of course, the emphasis on stay away from double standards. We have mentioned that time and again, the Dutch government should not operate on the basis of a double standard when responding to all kinds of violations, human rights violations, climate actions that have impact on ecology. So consistency and stay away from double standards. Make sure that you have a long-term vision and always act upon violations. If it's not possible immediately, locally, then also think about the enabling environment of human rights defenders, climate activists, and make sure that one contributes, not just locally, as I emphasized, but also to the UN and the EU systems, where we need to develop sometimes regulation to protect, for instance, human rights violations against slaps or other action. So a couple of more abstract, maybe, takeaways. At the same time, I hope that you realize that it's really focused at nurturing and protecting and encouraging local organizations and people working on all of these crucial projects and issues around women's rights and social and economic justice. Now, I want to stop here because I hope there are a couple of questions also from your side. But that's just now about the advice and to set the stage a bit about the urgency and where I think we can work together moving forward.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate this overview. It was very quick. Maybe my first question, well, are there questions in the room? Questions for Janne? Not yet. I'll give you a moment to think. Oh, can I just call you Janne? You are a professor. You worked very hard for that.
Yes, please call me Janne.
Professor Janne?
No.
Okay, Janne. Okay. Janne. Okay. Wait, before we go, actually, I saw the lady. There's a person taking pictures. There are pictures being taken. If you don't want to be on the photo, you can let them know that you don't want to be on the photo. It's also being recorded, this session, just so you know. Very important thing I forgot to say. Janne,
yes,
are they listening to you?
In what way?
Well, now you've said all these very important things, and we're talking about shrinking civic space, and we are here in the Netherlands, where there are also things changing.
Yes.
Do you feel that you're being listened to?
Yeah, the good thing is with the council that government and parliament needs to meet us and needs to respond. That's a bit of a formal answer. Yeah. What we said, and that goes to the first part of your question, what we said in the advice goes to that concern that this is a global trend. Yeah. This is also happening in the Netherlands. And there is a change, maybe, in appreciation of the importance of international cooperation. Yeah. The importance of supporting human rights defenders around the world. And so when we gave this advice, we got questions around, shouldn't the funding be appropriate? And that's actually what we advise also in there, saying this is so important for everyone. This requires proper funding.
So we can't.
We also said that sometimes it needs reform.
Yeah.
Right? So it's also, we all should keep thinking how we can deal with power balances, how we deal with certain topics. But what I have always appreciated with Dutch approach in the last years is the idea that it supported local partners in the forms of contestation, right? And that's about political agency locally.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm also, I mean, you've said a couple of things about it, but we have the Dutch foreign policy itself. How can it effectively protect the roles and the rights of the human rights defenders, climate activists, women's rights advocates? I mean, you've given some tips, but how can our foreign policy here in the Netherlands effectively protect those rights and roles? Because also things are changing here.
Yeah, so I think that in general, and that's where a lot of the focus in the discussion is that there is need for funding, right? That's obvious, and we talked a little bit about that just now. But if you talk about how can foreign policy be relevant, I think a lot is about enabling environments, right? It's a lot about making sure that as a Dutch government, without double standards, you respond to injustices, shrinking, violations of freedom of expression, violations of the freedom to protest, right? So the conditions, the requirements for people to shape their lives, that's what this is about. I understand when I talk about it, it may sound very abstract and you think, what's she talking about? But this is about our lives as citizens in whatever society we live, that we co-create and that we get space for that and the agency and the rights and freedoms to do that.
No, and we've, as Dutch foreign policy, we've often done that, but let's see if, that's why I was asking if you think they're listening, because, you know, funding is shrinking, visions are shrinking. But I'll leave it, perhaps I've given enough time for you to think about questions you might have for Janne. Anybody? Sophie's walking around with a mic.
You, so
let's help Sophie of ActionAid make her 10,000 steps today.
Yes, thank you so much. I was wondering, the title of the report is Freedom and Security or Safety Under Pressure. And I was wondering, this word security and safety, like if you look at the picture, I feel like, you know, maybe a lot of people here think of civic space as defending safety and security of people. But the people right now in The Hague, they see the person on the left as being security. So I was wondering if you could maybe say a bit more about how also this global trend, like, is kind of, you know, reframing this idea of security and safety, in this context.
Tell me when I am off track in answering your question. So when it comes to the translation, I made sure we talked about safety and not security, because the whole idea that or after 9/11, right, we see a general trend that anti-terrorism legislation has often been abused and had collateral consequences where the possibilities to express your opinion became less. So one of the factors of that shrinking civic space is indeed, and I think you refer to that mindset of security that has fed into repressive legislation. I understand that you can look at it two ways, but I think with the title we chose, it's obvious that, or so I hope, that it is really about how, in whatever position we are, we put maybe not hope, but even faith, in the sense of people can do things. And that's what we were struck by with all these interviews from all over the world, under the most severe circumstances, people found ways to stand up and contest power and domination in different ways. So I see the secularization of societies that you point to, and I think we emphasize that this is a part of shrinking civic space, and we warn for it. And traditionally, as you were also referring to, Dutch foreign policy has emphasized that contestation is important, and human rights should be respected to do exactly that, stand up with truth to power.
Are you satisfied?
No? Yes?
Yeah.
Okay.
One question here? Yeah.
I'm really curious to look into a copy if you have spare ones. What I would look for is the answer to the question everyone knows about Gaza and how international law, including the Geneva Conventions, are violated there. But I don't know how thick the book is. Do you mention Western Sahara, which is suffering the same way from Morocco as Israel is doing to Palestine?
So this is really an advice on shrinking civic space, but obviously what's happening in all of societies around demonstrations is part of what we talk about. In our advice on Israel-Palestine, the Council gave an advice already October 2024, and you can imagine international law was a big part of that. I was also part of that group. It focused really on Israel-Palestine and on the war on Gaza and in Gaza. But I'm, of course, aware of what you're saying. So in a different previous life, I organized events on that. But it's a bit off topic in the sense that we didn't include it in this advice. But I agree that there's questions there too. Yeah.
Sounds like there's a lot of food for discussion after the session. Yeah, there. You can have a sneak peek while she's up here. And I want another round of applause for Janne. And thank you so much for setting the stage for us, sketching the context. At the beginning, I promised success stories. So the situation is dire. We're in trouble. Governments, listen up. However, there are people who are doing a lot, who are acting and making things possible and are winning. They are, successful in the work that they do. And the first person I would like to invite up here is Fadzai Mitsi from Zimbabwe. A warm round of applause for Fadzai. As Fadzai works for the Zimbabwean Environmental Law Association, ZELA, and she will be speaking about the current national ban on the export of raw materials such as black granite and prioritization of value addition at the national level. So that is a win, right? Less mining, more value addition. So the floor is yours, Fadzai.
All right. Thank you very much for giving me the floor. Good evening, everyone. I think I just have 5 people who greeted me, but anyway, that's okay. So maybe to just feel a little bit like you, when I was sitting there, I was busy trying to Google what my name would mean if I were Dutch, and I actually realized it would mean, I think it's Gotel Wotel. What that means is, Fadzai actually means happiness, and Midzi actually means roots. So I think maybe you can translate that better than me. Otherwise, I'll be sued for speaking the wrong things here. Anyway, I'm just going to speak about the work that we have been doing in Zimbabwe. So in Zimbabwe, just like what the moderator has spoken about, it has been 15 years. It has been a journey, right? And trust me, those 15 years, I wasn't part of it. Lucky enough, I was part of the last 6 years. The other ones, I was in school, so you can relax. All right, so what we actually did the past 15 years is we were implementing a project that was to promote women's rights in the mining sector. So we were actually implementing a project that is to promote women's rights. So what we actually did through this project, it was called the Fair, Green and Global Project. And our project, the last that we were implementing, was mainly focused on the granite and gemstone value chain. So we organized and mobilized women. So this picture is a picture of how we organized people. And when I say people, I'm looking at women miners, I'm looking at women that are affected by mining operations, I'm looking at policymakers, I'm looking at legislators, the private sector, business, and ourselves as civil society. Then the next picture is a picture of where this granite is coming from. That is the raw materials. So this is coming from a rural area within Zimbabwe, which is called Mutoko. So this area is actually within the vicinity of where the communities are living. So this picture actually shows that this is actually a community that's a home there, and that's where mining is happening. So you can imagine the challenges that they are facing. They are facing a lot of water pollution, displacement, because they can't stay too much long with mining happening just down the road, and they are living there. So they don't have like those beautiful views that you get to enjoy in Amsterdam. They just have to wake up and see that heap of stones piled there waiting to be exported so that they can be used for other things. Then moving on, I said we were implementing a project, and this project is with two groups of women. So the first group of women are those affected by mining in the granite sector. Then the second group of women are those that are actually doing the mining. So this is a woman who is mining gemstones so that they can be able to use them for value addition. So this picture actually showed one of our impacts through this project. So these women, through the value addition and beneficiation strategy, we have managed to empower them so that they can be able to participate in granite value chain. And one of the greatest achievements that we were able to get was them being able to make a crown for a national pageant that is happening within the country. So that is the crown, and the jewelry that is used there is actually locally sourced by those women. Then this is just some of their products. That is the stones they are using, and that's the finished products. And that is an export license, which they recently got through the project, and we were advising them, giving them legal and technical support. So that is our sustainability model. We're actually having women that are ready to make finished products out of the gemstones that they have, out of the minerals that they have, and also being able to tap into the international market through export and trade. So this is our sustainability plan, which is an association of women that are not only affected by mining, but are inspired enough to also participate in mining and get economic value and shared value out of their minerals. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing this story with us, and how women are able to get themselves organized in an association and gain from the value addition locally. So what are the things that you had to do to make this happen?
I think for us, the main things that we had to do is to do legal empowerment for them, capacity building for them to understand the different laws and legislation, to understand the gaps within the legislation, and to also be able to hold corporates, especially those that are mining near their homes, to hold them to account for the human rights violation they are causing, and to also reach out to policymakers and regulators to also be responsive in making sure that they get redress for those human rights violations they are facing. But of course, it has come with challenges. And one of the challenges is the moment in my country, we actually have a mantra which is called Zimbabwe is open for business. And this has opened up a lot of business opportunities, especially in the mining sector. And that alone, the moment you then start saying that same business is causing environmental degradation, then you are deemed, you are seen as anti-government, and then you face restrictions. Now, as we speak, we actually have a legislation which is called the Private Voluntary Organization Act, which actually resists and restricts the civic space for us as civil society, because we are no longer that independent. When you speak and the government or the minister sees you as if you are working against the government agenda, then you can be deregistered at any time. So that's the risk that we are facing to continue this work.
Yeah. No, it sounds like, you know, you presented it like, and then we put them in an association, but actually it's quite complex legal work, also of raising awareness and increasing engagement of the women, but also yourselves as activists around the women. Are there any questions from the audience? We have space for maybe one. Time for maybe one. If I say two, will there be questions? Yeah, there's one.
What are the biggest challenges you still face?
Thank you very much. I think the biggest challenge is that we live in a shifting world. So our government, because we're a developing country, they are continuously trying to change the legislation so that they can be able to respond to the global demand, to the global shifting trends that are there. And for a community to be able to understand that, it's quite complex, because they need, for them, what's important is just protecting their family, being able to provide food on the table, and living in a clean environment. But that just doesn't come on a silver platter. They have to fight for it. They have to understand why this investment is coming to them. They have to understand how they have to fight that, so that at the same time as development is coming, it comes in a sustainable manner, and they can also be part of the change which comes with the development. So I think that's the major challenge we face.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Fadzai. And I love your name, Happy Roots. We all have happy roots, even though we might not know it. But a warm round of applause for Fadzai. And thank you for sharing this success story. I'm going to sit here because this is my first Oprah Winfrey moment. I'm going to invite Veronica Kanje from Uganda. She's going to share her success story with us. Veronica is a project officer at the Network of Public Interest Lawyers, NetPIL, in Uganda, and she focuses on land rights, and she's going to tell us about compensation and remedy for land grabbing, and how, what the wins that they've, yeah, pick one, I think it will work. The one with the, it looks like a light on it. Oh, yeah, try. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, it works, yeah. Yeah, because you've been doing a lot of work. Can you tell us a little bit about what you've been doing? What is the case that you're bringing for us?
I'm not sure if everyone knows where Uganda is. Does everyone know where Uganda is? Anyone? See? There we go. So you, oh, you do. Wonderful. At least one person knows.
Central Asia.
Wow. So Uganda is situated in East Africa. They say it's a small country, but it's at least bigger than Rwanda and Burundi, which are all East African countries. Yeah, so I am here to tell of a story of 401 very courageous families that have walked a journey of 25 years to eventually arrive at, well, I guess by the time I'm done with the story, you'll tell me whether it's justice or not. Yeah, so the story starts in 2000. We have 401 families that are violently evicted from Mubende district. Mubende district is about 150 kilometers from the capital city of Uganda, which is Kampala. Why were they evicted? To make room for coffee growing. Coffee growing by who? A subsidiary of the Newman Group. The Newman Group is a German company, one of, I think, actually the biggest coffee producers. And I think Nescafe is from there, if I'm not mistaken. But anyway, so the 401 families were evicted very violently. They tell very violent stories. Stories of remains of forefathers burnt before people's eyes, women beaten, thrown out, houses burnt. Yes, the story is that bad.
And who did that?
Well, agents of government,
okay.
because the people say that they were evicted by the army. Right. Yes, and the Newman Group, which is the subsidiary is Kaweri Coffee, says that for them, the investment authority informed them that the land was free for usage. Mm-hmm. So it's a ping pong. They seem to be, the corporate is hiding behind the government, and the government seems to be offering the security and protection that the corporate requires. Anyway, courageous people go to court with the help of Action Aid and some few other partners, and the court journey begins. Like I've said, it's a journey that has taken 25 years. They went to court. They were evicted in 2000. They went to, the case sits in court for the first time in 2001. And friends, the first compensation arrived in 2025, meaning it was a battle that took 25 years. These were people whose case was being heard in the capital city, Kampala. They were evicted and ended up at the outskirts of Kaweri Coffee. So actually, most of them are providing cheap labor for the people who evicted them. But they had to make the journey of 150 kilometers every so often to come to Kampala to get their case heard. And unfortunately, the way the matter has ended, because they had the support of Action Aid together with other partners, somehow they managed to pull through with the case. Of course, also the courage from them, because I think any of us could have easily given up. But somehow they didn't. And in 2022, the government of Uganda finally agreed to a consent. So we have a consent judgment where 258 of the 401 agreed to settle. But the settlement meant that they were going to be paid compensation that is equating to what they asked for in 2001. So what they have been paid did not have any interest on it, nothing. But when we were having negotiations with the government, they were quick to remind us that these are not the only people who have been evicted, so there's nothing special about them. Even the fact that they are getting some money to be paid is already something that is elevating them. Yeah. And unfortunately, after you have waited for over 20 years to get justice, you'll almost take anything. And unfortunately, that is what has happened. But the good news is, as of today, of the 258 people who accepted to take the money, at least the government has paid 164. And for them, if you ask them, that is something to treasure. It's a sign of success because there's something that they can do about at least the long journey that they have taken. Yeah.
Well, this sounds really actually wonderful and terrible at the same time. But I mean, it's not my place to judge on my own. And I really like this story that it's not a story, this reality that you are sharing with us, because I think it highlights also the importance of long-term commitment. The change doesn't happen overnight. We have to keep pushing. So the program at Action Aid is 15 years old. Yeah. Your activity or your activism is 25 years old, and the first group has been compensated in 2025, which is crazy.
And in fact, the FGG 15 years have supported them. It's interesting that as the FGG is closing, the success is coming through.
Okay, well, thank goodness, right on time.
Yes.
So what kept you going? What would you say are key strategies to push government to even get this compensation? What do you think? Do you think it's something you did, or is it circumstantial?
I think it's something that we all did. It was a combination, a collective effort from everyone. From the people themselves, if you have a client who has waited over 20 years, and they're still courageous enough to show up. You almost can't afford not to show up. That is for starters. So kudos to them for not giving up. But then also we had very many different strategies. Action Aid Uganda had the wisdom to put together key partners. So for us, for example, me, I work for the Network of Public Interest Lawyers. We are lawyers. We provided the legal hand. Yeah. So we went for that. We even sued the Attorney General for contempt, because even after we signed the consent judgment, there was no money to pay the claimants. We also had to push that. But we have another partner called Action Alliance that does a lot of capacitating communities to use civic engagements and civil resistance to push for action from the government. And it came in handy. It capacitated them, and they took action from the capacitation that they had. Yeah. So we had peaceful protests. They engaged the German ambassador in Uganda. We also had some protests in Germany from German partners. And then it became too hot for the government, and they had to act. So that's why it is a collective effort. So it's
really the collectivity also in the international and rural, urban, and like also different sectors, everybody coming together for this. So it's you told the story in a way that shows that there are a lot of challenges in it. Also, even the success is slightly watered down, right? But we'll celebrate this success because it's a success. What would you say are some of the key challenges that you faced?
I think the challenges are, first of all, again, I'm going to start from the community. Because you can imagine the cost implication that it took them to sustain a matter, first of all, for the 25 years. Imagine if Action Aid wasn't there. I don't think this case would get here. No. There is no way it would have ever reached here. Because there's cost implication. In addition to that, remember what led them out of the land was a traumatic event. No one has addressed the trauma, meanwhile, up to now. It is something that continues to come through, but it's, I guess, part of the social impact that all of us, for now, unfortunately, in our country, it's something that is not given as much importance as it is. But unfortunately, they get to carry that around. But I think other than the effects that come with having to litigate a matter for a very long time, I will give, for example, a reality of the fact that at least 84 people will never see justice because the money found them dead. Because it's been 25 years, obviously people die. So is there justice for those ones? I don't know. Then, of course, like I said, the government wasn't willing to put some interest on the money. It wasn't. And unfortunately, Kaweri Coffee said nothing, did not even offer to contribute anything. All they did was sit behind the Ugandan government that offered protection for them. Because perhaps if they made a contribution towards, because they were part of the case, perhaps that money could have been elevated.
And how could they, as users of the land, how was it possible for them to not be part of the compensation process?
They are part of the case. They are what we call the second defendant. But the government said, we shall pay the money. And we shall negotiate with you how much money we are paying you. So for them, they just simply silently sit and hide behind the government. Exactly. So unfortunately, I think that for me, in terms of challenges, because for us, the rest of us are civil society, and because we work as a group, it's a little bit easier for us to overcome some of the challenges that come our way. Whereas for the people, the challenges that have shown up in this case are something they get to live with for the rest of their lives. Yes.
This is terrible. And also great that the win is there. It was a very sobering win.
Yeah, but I want, there's a photo. Sorry. It's not rolling over. Yes. I think on a very, at least on a lighter note, this is Maria Antonina Nakate. Nakate is 80 years old. And Nakate was evicted at about 55 years. So I think that's, for me, the story that remains with me is when Nakate, I went to see Nakate after she had received money in her bank account. And she says that she has been sick and she did not have money to provide medical attention for her. And she says at least after receiving this, it could perhaps add her some extra years. And she says it came just right in time to play a very important role, and that is something that she'll always be grateful for. So for very many of them, that is the kind of story that they have, because even when it has come late, even when it has come little, it has come at a time when they have thought about it and they will apply it rightly so that it can make a difference in their lives. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing this with us. Yeah. And questions, yeah. Once again, you have an opportunity to ask questions to Veronica. Anybody? Yes. There's one there. Anybody else? Yeah, we'll start.
Hi. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Okay. Thanks for sharing your story. It's very inspirational. I was wondering, since you reached a settlement with the government, does that mean, I studied law myself, so that's why I was wondering, does it mean that there's no real president, president, I don't know the English word, the Dutch word is president. So it's like, that it has a legal meaning for like the rest of the country?
Okay. Does it have legal precedent? The good news is, well, in my country, precedent has carries weight depending on the court that has issued the judgment. Luckily, this is a high court decision, and the high court ranks third. So typically speaking, it's a decision that would not influence any court above the high court. Also, whereas 258 decided to settle, 143 refused the money because they reasoned that it was too little and they would rather wait, even if it means waiting another 20 years. So there is another judgment that hopefully we get to see in our lifetime.
Wow. Thank you for thank you for this question and for this sharing this reality with us. We sit here and drink coffee, and it's great to hear sometimes the cost of that coffee that we drink. So a warm round of applause for Veronica.
Thank you.
And now I promised you 3 success stories. Now we have our 3rd success story. I would like us to welcome Abul Kalam Azad. And he's the manager of the Just Energy Transition Program. And he's going to tell us about the shift away from fossil fuels towards greater investment in renewable energy in Bangladesh. The floor is yours.
Thank you. And good evening, everyone, ladies and gentlemen here. I'm from Bangladesh. Bangladesh is a country from South Asia. Small country, but highly populated. And I'm going to present a case, a success case, that how community struggled to phase out coal power plant in Bangladesh. And the Matabari coal power plant is who is doing that? That's good. However, so it's a case of 1200 megawatt coal power plant in Matabari. Matabari is a small island in southeast coastal region in Bangladesh. It's a small island, peaceful island, and people living with their traditional salt production, fishing, agriculture, shrimp and crab farming. But in 2013, Coal Power Generation Company Bangladesh, it's a public limited company owned by Bangladesh government, introduced number of coal power plant in the island. 3 coal power plants with 400 megawatt capacity, and JICA was the main investor. JICA, I mean Japan International Cooperation Agency, the financial agency from Japan. And they grabbed almost all land that the source of income of local community. And disaster getting started there in Matabari. And in 2014, 15, 16, and 17, ActionAid through FGG project, funded by Dutch Ministry of Foreign Affairs, intervened with the community in Matabari, mobilized local community, local civil society organizations, and in 2018, there is happening a severe waterlogging because of construction work of the coal power plant. They closed all the sluice gates and destroying all the local water flow system, the local island. And that time, ActionAid, along with other civil society organizations and community, called international and national level community, civil society organization, to save people in Matabari. And at that time, organizations from Japan, from Philippines, India, Australia, and some other countries, civil society organization, they solidarity with the call and movement from the Matabari people. And movement actually started there. And then, you know, the last regime, we passed 15 years with a repressive regime in our country. And during that time, people actually, local people, civil society faced several times interrogation by the state agencies, you know. So in 2029, ActionAid introduced another national level civil society platform called Life and Nature Safeguard Platform, along with human rights defenders, university teachers, and journalists. And in 2019, 2020, and 2021, continuously, we have advocating with Japan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, JICA, and Japan Finance Ministry. In 2020, early 2022, SMBC, the financial advisor, they retreat from the second phase of Matabari coal power plant. And in June, finally, JICA retreat from Matabari, and they cancelled Matabari phase 2 project, that is 1200 megawatt coal power plant. So that the struggle, it is discussed by the professor about this world we are living here. It's like a blind world. Nobody responsible for people. So that success story from the people and struggle from the ground, it's a very significant, you know. And the relation between global north and south and the intervention from the global north to global south, how they are influence our government, how they are influence our policymakers, how they are developing our policies and intervene such like, so Japan has their own policy about no investment to the fossil fuel, but they are investing in Bangladesh in fossil fuel, and they providing loans, huge amount of loans for fossil fuel. So that this success we enjoyed too much in our country and civil society, even civil society from Japan. And currently, the FGG project is a fantastic project, fantastic in this regard that we have huge opportunity to mobilize civil society, addressing corporates from global south and things related to. And there is some openness to address issues related to. And then 2023, 2024, and now we are almost end of the project, and heard from our colleague in Netherlands, the FGG maybe not extension because of the right-wing political intervention here in Netherlands. I don't know really what is happening here, but everywhere happening, the right-wing power is evolving. So our country also, but recently Bangladesh get back. The regime has fallen in last year, July, August, and the new government is struggling to reconcile our democracy, reconcile human rights and things related to and people power again, but the situation is not easy. However, so there's so many challenges to win such a project, but still there is another coal power plant that is now implementing, and there is impact, huge impact to the community, and more than 100,000 people still struggling with their livelihood, employment, and now the ultra super coal power plant, the advanced technology, but the local people suffering many of health hazards in Matarbari. So people are still struggling, phase out more coal power plant in Bangladesh and Matarbari. So this was my story from the community in Matarbari and the struggle in different layer and levels from the community, civil society, from national, international, regional. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Azad, for sharing this experience with us. And there's so many things to ask about because there's so many inconsistencies. For instance, with JICA, that JICA doesn't want this type of investment but still invests. It's a strange thing that happened. But I want to bring it closer to home. What do you think is the responsibility of the Netherlands in contributing to the case in Bangladesh?
Netherlands means Action Aid.
Yeah.
Action Aid.
Sure. Very specific, very specific.
So we have relation with Netherlands. Netherlands government supporting our 100 years Delta Plan. And FGG project countering sometimes that plans because of that plans is not really supporting resolve our water problems and river issues like flood, etc. But in this project particularly, Action Aid colleagues from here, they're supporting a lot to mobilize other civil society organizations globally and supporting so many ways to mobilize community, civil society, and things related to.
Yeah. So really the international network and support is the thing that helps a lot
right.
when it comes to Action Aid.
Right.
But we won't talk about Netherlands as a government right now.
No.
We'll avoid it. I mean, it's allowed, but we won't do that. Are there questions from the audience at the moment? Anybody want to ask about the Matarbari coal plant? This is your opportunity.
Okay, that's.
Yes, hello, thank you very much. Very interesting presentation. So I'm wondering, because it was not very clear to me, so right now, the people, it's still living in this area, and is there been any change on the consultation for the communities in the area for future projects of energy, infrastructure, and so on?
So in Matarbari, there is 3 coal power plants planned by the government. So one already built by JICA. That is implementing. One is cancelled because of the people's pressure, and other one is cancelled by the government in 2021 because of the people pressure. So the existing one is affecting local people and environment. So the struggle is ongoing. Is that your question?
So because of this case, also now with the new government situation, do you think or do you see a change in consulting more the communities, especially for this type of projects, or the changes happen when community resist?
Okay. The important information related to that Japan developed our integrated energy and power master plan. So it's a new colonial system that the policy developed by the global north, and we are, because of their interest, their profit. So in the integrated master plan, they proposed so many coal power plants, LNG power plants, and some power plants that is that make profit to Japan, like advanced technology. So our economy can't afford that type of technology. However, so people are protesting everywhere. And last week, I have a meeting with JICA. So JICA, we proposed the need to consultation with the local community. And JICA's position is they can ask coal power generation company, Bangladesh coal power generation company, to consultation with the community because of JICA phase out the project. They are not exist in Matarbari. So this is the cases, but local people is still fighting against existing coal power plant and trying to talking to JICA. But JICA already mentioned that they are not really responsible right now because of phase out.
Thank you very much for this explanation and for your question. Again, a success story that is based in reality. So it's not only happy thoughts. Now I get to do my second Oprah Winfrey moment. I would like to invite Fadzai and Veronica back to the stage. And we have a panel now. We have the politicians will join us. Because we've been talking about politicians, governments. We have two people who are parliamentarians here in the Netherlands. We have Mpanzu Bamenga of the D66, D66 party. Please give him a warm round of applause as he joins us here on the stage. Mpanzu has been focusing on discrimination, integration, and environmental justice issues. And we are very honored and happy that you're here. I'm sure you're all very busy with everything. I think one of the things that you are famous for is a court case against the police. But we can talk about that another time. But really great that you're here. Please take a seat. And then we have, I almost want to say, of course, but maybe not everybody would agree with me. I will just say, of course. We have Danielle Hirsch here from GroenLinks P van de A. She's an economist and the former director of Both Ends, which has close relations with ActionAid, which is why I was going to say, of course, she's here. She focuses now on fair trade and development policies with an emphasis on climate, human rights, and international cooperation. Yes, thank you so much for joining us. I think we do it randomly. Just sit where you're comfortable, and I'm a very dynamic person. They will come, yes. Here, you can have the politicians can share one mic. Otherwise, yeah, exactly. Of course, yeah.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too. Here you go.
Nice to meet you too.
Yeah, no, I'm working here. You guys can sit. Yeah, go ahead. So I'll start with the politicians. Is it okay? First name? First names are okay. You've been listening for quite a while, Daniela and Mpanzu. How am I saying it? Mpanzu. Okay, thank you. I want to say it correctly. We've listened to the keynote. I think I said Daniela correct, right? I thought I should check at least, yeah. We've listened to a keynote speech from Janne, who described the context to us. And we've traveled around the world. We've gone from Uganda, we've gone to Zimbabwe, we've gone to Bangladesh. We see what's going on. So it looks like, and we all know, beyond this room, we also know what's going on in the world. So from your perspective, seeing what you see in Parliament, is there still a way to change this trajectory that we're on when it comes to shrinking civic space? What's your opinion?
You go first.
And then you can grab from me.
I can
give
go
it
first.
a shot. Yeah.
Well, of course, I do think we can change things, and I think, but but it was very scary to see in a very short period of time how much could be broken by this government, basically. And I think that it also, it's not only that people are trying to break things in policy or trying to bring more injustice to the world, but it's just the idea that it's possible to do it in such a short period that's actually very scary. Yeah. And the time to actually bring it back to a great level, it takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time. Yeah. But on the other side, we see that it's not just the Netherlands who is doing this, but it's globally. There's a global movement to basically break down the international cooperation. And therefore, yes, it is very dangerous. We've seen it with US IED. It's very dangerous what they did to withdraw all the budget in a very short time. But at the same time, it also learned us that we should not be that how do you say, dependent on these kind of budget. Because it's very dangerous, because when you are dependent on this kind of budget, it also means that they decide, actually. And they are basically deciding who lives, who dies, etc. And they can create chaos, etc. So that's why I also see it as a challenge for everybody in the world to also see how can we come up with policy that is far more sustainable, that is not that dependent on US policy or what is happening in the world. But I do believe, nevertheless, that we here in the Netherlands should see our responsibility. And we committed a lot of, the world colonial fell. Yeah. We committed a lot of damage in the world, so we should repair it as well. And we are still committing damages because there are still companies with colonial roots, colonial history, who are still committing a lot of damages, and we are not making sure that that they are taking their responsibility. And that is something that we really should fight for, to make sure that people gain their justice.
Who should fight?
Sorry?
Just to clarify, who should fight? When you say we should fight, for
we should fight, yeah.
You parliamentarians?
Me, parliamentarians, everybody. Okay. Danielle, we should all fight. I mean, yeah.
We should
I can learn. If you don't know how to fight, I can learn you how to fight. Don't worry about that.
Okay. I would like to hear your reaction to what Panzu is saying. Yeah.
Well, I want to make sure that we are clear about what's happening, not only here but everywhere. So So if you have. First, I want to answer your question. Is there still hope? And of course, if I am not supposed to speak for you, but we wouldn't have gone into politics if we didn't think there was something to fight for. Yeah. Like you wouldn't work for an NGO if you didn't believe you had something to fight for. Yeah. And you fight for something because you have hope to win, or at least you want to make the others lose. That can be another motivation, which is actually my motivation. And then there, of course, are two things. And I think we are focusing a lot on the funding. But the tendency to talk about people that fight for their rights, and I think that's basically what your stories have been about, and also what your story was when you took on the police. The tendency to classify people that fight for their rights as crazy people, as activists, as people that want to destroy your economy, that has been a tendency that has been going on for quite some time. And I think that what we've seen in the past year and a half, and I think we've been lucky that this government has already left, what we've seen is that the discussion about the value of civil society and the value of development cooperation has also been lifted up because of the destruction that this government tried to put through. So yes, it has been bad where we are now, but I think we have a good chance to pick up what they've destroyed and see if we can go back to a better place. Yeah. But that does require from us that we, I think, lose part of our naivete. Naivete? Yeah. Naivete. And that is that there are people that gain a lot by these kinds of policies. So the people that gain are the people that are actually holding on to these multinationals that you've been fighting. Yeah. The multinationals that also have done a lot of damage in the Netherlands itself, because we have similar cases, although it might sound weird, but we have similar cases in the Netherlands where people have been fighting for decades to get their rights and they still don't have them. What we still don't include in our debates here is who stands to gain by destroying critical civil society, either through language or through funding. And I hope that in the coming, and that's also what Panzo refers to, if we have to bring in policies, we have to bring in laws that hold these companies to account, and we're losing that battle at the moment. So there's 3 battles going on. Mm-hmm. One is about language, one is about funding, and one is about who wins in this society and how are we going to make them lose.
Yeah. Okay, I want to ask a question because I feel like both of you are talking about a type of reframe that is needed. And Panzo, you were talking about dependency and funding. And one of the battles that we hear a lot, especially when we talk about international solidarity, is the funding battle. During dinner, we were having a conversation. I was having my new friend from Kenya. We're having a conversation about the need to find alternative forms of funding. But how do you fund rights, right? It's different from if I'm a social entrepreneur, which I am, and I can more easily find funding for concrete things, but rights are not that easy to fund, perhaps. So is there a shift in perspective that you see is necessary in your field as parliamentarians? Is there something that we're missing in how we are looking at this story of international solidarity that we've heard? All 3 stories that we've heard today have talked about the importance of the international solidarity in having the success that they have. So are we missing something as parliamentarians?
I just want to make sure that we understand each other. I think that's why the destruction that's happening now and the way we talk about the kind of financing that all these organizations have been receiving from the Dutch government. Yeah. The Dutch government took a very risky step 15 years ago to focus solely on funding critical voices. Yeah. And be it critical voices from the feminist movement or environmental movement or the labor movement, that they decided to do that because they found that funding for those kinds of activities was fairly scarce. Yeah. Actually, it was non-existent, almost non-existent. Yeah. So I think the Dutch government has shown for 15 years long-term commitment and with funding critical voices. In the first 5 years, it was dominated by agenda setting by the Dutch organizations. But throughout those years, the agenda setting has also shifted to organizations that work in the Global South, who have defined whether or not they wanted action either in the Netherlands or at international level. So instead of saying we don't know how to do this, actually we were very good at it. Yeah. And the OECD even applauded these kinds of programs compared to other donor countries. Yeah. So we know how to do this. Yeah. And we were exceptional in the Netherlands. And we were exceptional because we were able to work with people like you are sitting here, but there is, within all the networks of all the organizations, thousands of organizations that have shown that they can do this together. Yeah. And I think one of the reasons that we're losing that funding now, honestly speaking, is because those networks have been so successful.
Okay, right.
So the success has been in getting laws, in winning court cases, albeit in 25 years, in getting coal power, the whole discussion on coal power plants, because yours is not the only one, of course, on the agenda. And the success is having a backlash. And I think we were just not prepared for the backlash, and that's what we have to stand up now.
Yeah, exactly. So we're now victims of our own success. Yeah. Yeah, but we need to fight that.
Yes,
okay.
And realize that you had success and that many people supported that success and believe in that success.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I answer in a different way, maybe?
Yeah.
You know, I'm born in Congo, and Congo was colonized by Belgium. Yeah, and what I realized is that even after the colonization of the decolonization of the country, the system basically were still there, right? And the system is still existing, and I do believe that we should also look at that, because that system is a system of winners and losers. The system is about keeping you in check, basically. Either it is by loan, either it is by funding. It doesn't matter. You are dependent on someone who basically can decide, whatever. But that system is also making sure that people are losing their lands, right? People are, their water is getting polluted. People having, concerns with the environmental. So we have to basically dismantle that system. This is also something that I really believe. And I do believe that we should also look at, how can we empower people, not only by sending funding, but also empowering people in skills, empowering people in knowledge, so that basically, this meeting started by people power, so that people power can basically be strengthened. Right, so that's also something what I really believe in, to make people more and more independent and also more and more aware of that bigger system that is basically holding them in check all this time.
All this time, yeah. No, I think that's an important point to raise, because sometimes we just want to look forward and we forget that the playing field has in fact not changed much. We think colonialism, so long ago, why are Africans not getting their act together? But before I go to our 3 success stories, you said our government is gone, or almost. We have elections coming up. You are talking about people power. What will you do differently to restore civic space and safeguard human rights and women's rights? Because I think it's an interesting question also because of what you say. We've been so successful that, maybe now the funding might be, or the way we look at funding might be different. So what are you going to do? And is it safe for you to tell each other what you're going to do? Are you?
Of course it's safe. I mean,
of course.
Yeah, we were.
Of course it's
and then you see her writing down. You see her writing like, no. But, we should always work together in this field, right? Because if we don't work together, nothing will happen actually. So I do believe that we should come up with a vision that we come up with it with the organizations, with the local organization, and then come up with a vision how we would like to have it ourselves. If we talk about women's rights, for instance, we see that the policy, the women's rights article is taken away totally. This is something we need to fix as soon as possible. We need to fix the education. There's a lot of things to fix, but women's rights is definitely one we should fix. And I think that on the short period we will try to fix it. So we don't need to wait for a new election, because we've seen today how much it brings actually. To focus on that, and sometimes I feel like it's really evil that things that are really working. I think one of the colleagues just said it, that now that things are bringing a lot of success, we are quitting, right? So sometimes it really feels very evil that people are working very, very hard to bring progress, and then suddenly those programs that are being, a lot of progress are being stopped in such a way. Yeah. So if you ask me, we should bring all those programs back. I tried to begin with, for instance, the Great Lake program. This is one program that was cut off as well. And together with a lot of parties, we said, no, this should be brought back into policy. So this will be the first step to bring a lot of things back to policy, but we should also make sure, all of us actually, that in our programs, that we bring back those 0.7, at least 0.7 for the budget for the international cooperation, so that we can make sure that in the future there is always, well, even though I do believe that 0.7 is not necessarily enough, but that there is a minimum amount of, budget for the international cooperation.
Thank you. So women's rights is essential. The Great Lakes program, more budget for international cooperation. Those are some of the things. And it sounds almost like you're saying... And people power. But it almost sounds like you're saying some of the things are kind of low-hanging fruit, like, or no, am I going too far?
No,
like it's a bit like the women's rights programs, we know it's wrong, we know it has to come back, and you are not going to try, you're going to do it, because I'm going to find you and find out if you did it or not.
I'll give you my address.
Yes. You don't, I know where you live already. Danielle, would you like to add something? What are you going to do?
Yeah, so I think we have to bring programs back, but we have to start the vision or the policy from the perspective that development cooperation is actually, if you want to change systems, development cooperation should be focused on changing power dynamics, so changing power relations. And that is partly funding, so fund those initiatives that have a theory of change when it comes to power differences. Which can be feminist movements, it can be climate change, it can be economic justice, it can be many, many things. But it is not enough to have the funding. And since the Netherlands is a very big economy with a very big negative footprint on people's lives outside our borders, I think if you want to have development cooperation with a vision of changing those power relations, you have to have new laws that redress power imbalances. And we both were part of the group of parliamentarians that took an initiative on law on corporate social responsibility. And the S for me is sustainable, but it is social. And that law is being pushed away. I think, and that's where our parties don't necessarily see eye to eye on. I have a different vision on how trade relations should be organized and what they should focus on and why we would have trade relations, with what objective we should have trade relations. And there I say trade's fine, but it's not an objective in itself. It should deliver well-being for people on both sides of that relation, so within the whole value chain. So I think, and in order to get those policies done, we need to understand better, and I think we're still not too good at that. In the Netherlands, people need to understand what the consequences are of our trade decisions, of our investment decisions, and that is why these international networks are so important, because your reality is our reality, but from the other perspective. So I would have a broader vision than only funding. I've always appreciated the organizations that talk about more than funding. Because the battle on system change is way beyond funding and will be more effective if we go beyond funding. So we have to change the rules of the game.
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, that's no small feat, right? Changing the rules of the game, especially if you look at the colonial map that you're talking about, that or system that stays in place, and also the three battles that you mentioned. Yeah, you want to say something, you want to say something, and then I would like them to say something. But you're still holding the mic.
I just want to add that the system that we keep thinking of as we in the North stand to gain from, and people in the global South, whatever, stand to lose from, I think we in the global north have to realize that the same system that is destroying people's lives out there is starting to destroy people's lives here. And that's not it's the same multinationals, it's the same power differences, it's the same lack of rules for those that destroy environmental issues. So It's also in, if you want to bring it home, we have to start talking about global systems that make people that just want to have a nice life, their nice life impossible, which is also here in the US is even more obvious. And that is also, we need people from the outside in to tell us what's happening to us, because we don't see it ourselves.
And relates to what you were saying about people power. Please go ahead.
No, I agree. I agree to that fully, and I just wanted to give an example. For instance, we are talking about more and more electric cars or vehicles, etc. But those minerals, they are coming from someplace, right? So the more and more we want those things because it's good for us. We say yes, it's good for our environment, etc., etc. But it's not necessarily good for the world, because somewhere else, someone is paying, and the mining, etc. So we need to have also that vision about how do we do it in a better way? How do we do it in a way that is more just? And just at the end, I want to say I'm very. It's very beautiful to see this projects, basically, because we need more of those kind of examples. And just to add to one thing, what Danielle just said, I'm also a spokesperson for infrastructure and water. And there I see a lot of things in the environmental here in the Netherlands that is going very bad. And we are fighting this fight like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, tons of years. And here we have all these rights, we have all these regulations, we have all these people looking after whatever. But when I see the fight, which is just fought in Uganda, in Zimbabwe, they don't have all these safeguards. But still, they are fighting the same fight. And that's why it is so hard what is happening there. And that's why I love the fact that Action Aid is doing this work and is providing people some support so that they can fight it, even though it takes 25 years. My fight against the government took 5 years. I know I'm out of breath. I'm still out of breath. But they took 25 years, and that we have to applaud for that.
No, and I think just to add on, the things that we have exported to other parts of the world are catching up with us here, right? So maybe 25 years ago we exported the need for our coffee. It's catching up with us here. We are paying for it. It's exactly because it's all connected. I would like to go over to you, Fatai. You're holding the mic, or anybody actually who wants to talk. But I want to give you, Fatai, the first. What do you think? We have our allies here. They're in the Dutch government. They're parliamentarians. Yes, it's on. They are here listening to you. What would you like to discuss? What do you think is first of all, I would like to hear your reflection on what they're saying. What are some of the takeaways for you in what they're saying? And what would you like to tell them? What do you want them not to forget tonight? Because we want them to work for us, for all of us. And they are saying that you are also working for them. So what do you want them to, what are your reflections and what do you want them to not forget?
Thank you very much. I think what I just want to reflect based on what they have said and the importance of this work to their work and the importance of this international collaboration and cooperation. I think one thing that we have to know is we need each other as countries, as governments. We need each other. Why? Because the resources that Netherlands needs to continue to be a growing concern, to be a developed country, some of them are being extracted in countries like mine that are still developing. But at the same time, we're speaking of Netherlands, which is already developed, and they are getting the resources from a developing country. So I think when it comes to the funding cuts and the shrinking civic space, I'll just give you an example of the issue of policies and laws. The moment you develop a policy, I think you're always faced with two decisions. The first one is you have to do the right thing. After you have done the right thing, you are supposed to face the consequences of doing the right thing because everything is a trade-off. So now I know that you think you have done the right thing by withdrawing funding. Yes, it's the right thing. Why? Because it's going to give us a way in which we are going to adapt as humans. We have been designed to adapt. It's difficult, yes, now it's very difficult because civil society voice was built on funding. That's donor funding. The moment it's withdrawn, it means you've killed civil society. But at the same time, you have not killed it, but you have taught it how to morph, like mutate. So it means it's going to mutate. And at the same time, like what I said in my opening, we need each other. So I think withdrawing funding is good, yes. It's also bad. There are trade-offs in everything that we do, in every decision. But at the same time, I think having it in a transitional manner, in a phased manner, because we're talking of things that have been built for 15 years. They can't just be drawn in one decision, one cabinet decision, or one parliament decision to say we're withdrawing funding, or 15 years of gains, or 15 years of a journey, and you just stop it abruptly like that. But then, at the same time, I think what we also need to understand is that now governments are mainly focusing on trade, and we're talking of issues of energy transition. We're saying we need to move to zero carbon emissions, and all these minerals, they are coming from developing countries. And these developing countries, trust me, they're very far from those zero carbon emissions. We are experiencing all the pollution. We are experiencing all the environmental degradation. We don't have beautiful places to wake up and look at. We're actually waking up to looking at heavy trucks that are taking these resources to places we have never been. But we are actually here for other way. Yes. Yeah. So I think that would be my parting shots. Yeah. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Our speakers are getting tired. I know for you it's, what, 3 a.m. Azam? By now, so let me challenge you. You are the one I should challenge the most. We've been listening. Most of us have been listening. And I'm curious, listening to them, is there something happening with you in terms of strategies or opportunities to collaborate, or simply a message that you would like our parliamentarians to take along with them?
Thank you. This is really my sleeping time in my country, and I'm still struggling with the time zone and jet lag. However, I appreciate Dutch government for developing projects like FCZ that really contribute to raise critical voices from Global South. Human rights, protection of human rights, and protection of environment and climate issues, and more particularly energy transition that really contributing future of climate change. So that already mentioned, the living in Global South or Global North is really interconnected. And we are living in a village, a global village. We are talking about globalization and living in a village. So in a village, the people living, if some people living in more standard life or happy life or like peaceful life, and some people in same villages, they are not living in such a peaceful life, and they always struggling for living their regular life. So you can imagine the situation that those people have everything, they cannot live really peaceful life. So that without peace in Global South, Global North cannot live their real peaceful life. And the condition, the current or existing world, the Global South, Global North has their historic responsibility At the same time, their current intervention to the global south as extraction from global south by the transnational and multinational companies that is originated from global north. But global north, recently we observing that they are withdrawing their funding one after another. No problem. If you withdraw your fund, no issue, but you don't go global south. You don't invest global south. You don't intervene any issues, political, human rights, and issues related to, you don't talk about global south. So you can even withdraw your embassies, high commissions. That's reality.
Just go all the way. If you're going to do it
so that can make another world. But in existing condition, global south must support to global north must support to global south. And collaboration. That is more important than support financially. Collaboration regarding technology. Why global south is poor? Why? Why they are struggling every day for their minimum wage, for their minimum food, for their minimum clothes? Why? Because of extraction. Historic extraction and extraction in current days. So this should be understood by global north before making decision withdraw or stop all USAID funding to global south. For example, in Bangladesh, our health sector, particularly women health service, dependent on USAID funding for a long time. And the US government decision severely impacted rural women's health life, particularly pregnant women's life. So you have to think twice before taking decision to stop your funding, your historic liabilities to the global south.
No, I think it's really great what you're saying, because it's also really about a relationship. That's what we are talking about here, right? So you invest, you create a certain type of relationship, you stop investing, that's another type of relationship. So, you know, it's like a husband and wife, you know? If you treat me well, we can be happy together. If you don't treat me well, pack your bags and go. Sorry. At least that's how I am, I don't know. Veronica, I want to give you, because we've run out of time, but I put you here and I didn't let you say anything. So I wanted to still hear from you. What do you want Daniela and Panzu to take along with them to Parliament tomorrow?
I think most of what I would want to say has been said by my colleagues, but it's not that civil society down in the Global South is not doing anything about trying to find alternative funding. We have very many civil society organizations coming up with social enterprises. For example, in Uganda currently, we are trying to we are trying to convince Parliament to pass the legal aid bill. So there are some, strategies that are equally being taken to see if we can create an alternative. And why are we trying to find alternatives? Because for our case, unfortunately, we cannot afford not to have a functioning civil society. It's an option that is not available for us. We have no political will, and like I have given examples here, we are finding that even the corporates are somehow hiding behind the state, and the state is willingly providing the protection that they need. So it's not like we are not doing something about it. It's a question of time. When you simply cut the funding, currently USAID is gone. For our case, even the DGF, Democratic Government Society, recently left. So there is struggle all over the place. But who is suffering in the end? The person down whose land is grabbed, and they have nowhere to go. For you who is having the cup of tea this side and enjoying the coffee, you have no idea what that person down there is struggling with. Yeah, so I think it's a question of timing. It's not, we perhaps also understand where they are coming from, but this needs to be staggered. It should not be as abrupt as things are going right now. Yes.
Yeah. No, I think, thank you so much for bringing that up. You know, it's, again, people, we need the right timing. We need to think about what we are doing. But I think above all, I think a thing that you said about people power, that's what I keep hearing back from all of this. It's not only about global north and global south, but also really the idea that the things we are doing are affecting the people. The people are in the Netherlands, the people are in Bangladesh, in Uganda, and in Zimbabwe, and all the other countries we might be from. I think I want to refer back to something Jana said at the beginning, which is if we talk about people power, we need courage. We need to support each other to actually hold powerful people, powerful institutions accountable. We need to call Daniela and Mpanzu and all the other parliamentarians to hold them accountable and make sure that they do what we think is important. And I know we are all very tired because the world is not a very happy place right now. But now more than ever, right, we must rise and support each other and fight. I would like us to give a warm round of applause to our panelists. And I would like to invite you off the stage for now. And I would like to give the very difficult task to Jana to see what are now, yes, she's scratching her head a little. What are now the key takeaways? Because we've heard a lot. Luckily, I don't have to do that job. You get to do it.
Okay, but you stay
I will stay with you. Yes, I will hold your hand. We're talking about solidarity.
That's great. I don't see your faces. I just
I can assure you
a little bit of different light. Is that feasible? So thank you so much for a very exciting debate. Very, very important. And I think you already said quite a couple of important points with wrapping up. Right? It's a fight, and. Allow me to make one caveat. So I'm invited here as member of the council, but obviously in my daily life, this is touches on the discussion on a lot of what I see happening in Geneva, what I see happening with World Press Photo and journalists, and what I've been teaching and studying. So one or two things with respect to the idea of how to move forward with Dutch foreign policy, and then something else more from my personal capacity, if that's okay. So in all of this, I think what has been crucial is how we all, in all our different roles, need press freedom, right? We need the information to hold whoever to account. We need it in our capacities as citizens, as politicians, as CSOs who want to hold corporate power to account, right? You need information to see the violations that are taking place, the environmental degradation, harm. So if we talk about we, I would say we is all of us. It's not just the CSOs. It's all of us. And press freedom and freedom of information is crucial, and we all need to work on it. We need to pay for our information, our newspapers, all of that discussion. We didn't talk about it that much, but I think it's fundamental to everything we do if we talk about accountability. And I think that's a crucial theme that came out. And I really want to thank all of you here with the success stories of showing what you can do to mobilize when you mobilize women's rights, human rights, environmental law. So it's people power. It's as the discussion brought out, people fighting for their rights. And I think the Dutch government and parliament, and together with all its partners, can still be in a meaningful relationship. I think the word relationship was very, very crucial. We are, as I called it, transnational world, interconnected. It's a tiny planet in this universe, and we need to work together. And I think I really found it very, very wonderful to see what we can do together, right? I mean, what we can do when we stand up. So accountability, freedom of press and information. What I didn't talk about, but luckily came out thanks to Daniele, the whole due diligence legislation, right? I mean, that's the least we can do here in Europe, and we shouldn't be pushing back what our governments are doing. We should uphold and develop these due diligence legislation in Europe. And that touches on what I was mentioning as the Council was advising. At least take the no harm principle as a guiding principle, which means a lot. If you take it seriously, it means a lot. Yeah. It also means, sorry, you want me to wrap up? But
the clock.
So it also means that we, not just that we are paying for our information, we're paying for the coffee and where the coffee is coming from and what the products that we are buying are doing. Now, finally, in my personal capacity, all of this is about system. All of this is about how we organize international trade, how we organize the international economic order. That's international law, and international law has to change. Yeah. So I won't go into that, maybe another time, but I thought that is a very, very important point that the discussion brought out. And thank you all for doing all this wonderful work. I will leave the word of thanks to you, but it's been I think, an important takeaway, what people can do. Yeah?
Thank you so much, Janne. And thank you for bringing these concluding remarks. And who would have thought that everywhere we went, all the conversation we had, somebody would say, pay for your newspaper. That's like an important thing that we have to do. If we want press freedom, pay for your information. All that free information comes with free problems as well. I would like to thank all of you for being here with us. I think it's really important that we show up for these moments together with everything that's going on in the world. I want to thank ActionAid for facilitating this, making it possible for our international friends, guests, family members, lovers to come here and be together and share their success stories, because we also know how difficult it is to move. Right? So I think it's very important that we appreciate this. I just want to thank all of you and wish you a good evening and safety as you go, and courage that you continue to fight for what you think is right. That's what I was waiting for. Also, if you are younger than me, sign up for the Feminist Climate Academy under 42, under 40, 35, 30. Oh. I was trying to negotiate more time for you, but it's only up to 30. So please, I think this is an important building block in the fight that we have to fight. Join ActionAid, scan the QR code, and have a wonderful drink. Find each other, talk to each other, give your friends a hug, and enjoy your evening. Good night.